Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of The Clarity Corner. I'm your host, Hal Carmine, and I have an incredibly special guest with us today, Mr. Doug Ferris. So thank you for joining us today, Doug. This is a huge honor for me to get to do this. Since we started this podcast, you've been on my mind to get on here. I want people to hear about your legacy. I want people to hear about your family and the values you possess there, and certainly your leadership and skills in business and in life today. So we're going to delve into that. So thank you for coming.
Oh, it's an honor for me too, believe me.
So a little background. I met Doug in 99, 2000.
2000, I'd say.
That was only 2 years ago,
Yes,
right?
yes. Yeah.
26 years ago,
Yeah.
27 years ago.
I think you're right. 99 was first.
99, we had lunch.
And we started in 2000.
So as many of you know, I started working for a firm in Philadelphia, in Center City in this business. And a good friend of mine I grew up with, Ed Gabor, was working at another company, and we would get lunch every once in a while. And then he came to me at one lunch and said, "Hey, we're going out on our own. I want you to meet who's going to be my business partner, Doug Ferris, and we're going to start this company and see if you want to come." And that's the day we got lunch. And it all started from there.
Oh, yeah.
December of 2000, I think, is when
we opened up. Yep. Opened
that.
the doors. Yep.
So I had the privilege of working for Doug and Eddie from 2000, essentially till 2011, when you helped me launch this firm. Out on my own, kept a business relationship for a while.
Yeah.
And then, we both grew kind of independent from that. Their firm, Doug's retired now and is in the business succession part of that, but still active role with Ed.
Yep.
I would say. And their company, Key Advisors, is an incredibly successful firm, in both Lewis and Dover, Delaware. Haven't seen Ed in a while, but he's a movie star now, right?
Yeah, he is.
Constantly. You want to see Ed, go to
amazing.
CNBC.
Yeah.
You'll see him, or Fox.
Feeling old. I met Ed when he was 20 years old, between his junior and senior year of college.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's some of what I want to get in today, because when you guys opened that firm, you were the same age that I was when I brought Tristan on and he became a partner.
Wow.
So there's a lot of parallels there.
Definitely parallel.
And a lot of things that I learned from that I apply today with Tristan and the entire crew, and some questions I have to, some things I can improve.
Right.
Certainly. So that's our relationship. Doug and I, Doug's since retired, but, he's one of my favorite people on this planet, personally and professionally.
Yeah. We definitely separated business wise, but we never separated personally.
No, not at all. And the one thing there's a couple ways I would describe you. One of the words I like to think of is steady. So if there's a stressful situation, if there's a joyous situation, if there's a sad situation, can always count on you to be steady. You'll show some emotion, but you do what needs to get done in that situation.
It's definitely by design. I think that comes from growing up as a young guy, trying to be steady like that also, and raising kids. You got to try to be the steady one as well too. So I guess it transferred into my personal life. And because most of the folks around me were a lot younger than I always felt an obligation to hold the reins. If something went wrong, client was upset, any of that, I always made sure I was the first one to step in the room to talk about it.
Oh, that's true. I saw that demonstrated many times. So family as well. I always will go back to that. You put a strong emphasis on your family, your kids, and now grandkids.
Yeah.
So, where did that value come from for you?
Obviously, that came from my parents. I was very, very fortunate to have grown up in an extremely close environment, close family environment. I was the youngest of five. My parents had come from another country as kids, but, we grew up. They were very proud to be Americans. So they wanted to assimilate into the American society, but we also kept our culture. My family originated from Lebanon. There were Christian people coming here, loved the country. My father just loved being an American. In fact, not only was he American, but he joined the army, and during World War II, was a Normandy veteran. He was very, very proud of that as well too.
You and your brother visited there not too long ago.
I did. My brother, my sister, and I, my brother also worked for the army.
Okay.
So he was able to actually get my father's company and trail exactly his same trail all the way up, and we ended up in Bastogne, in Belgium. And it was an amazing, it was kind of emotional as well. I remember him talking a lot about the hedgerows. I never know what he meant by that.
Right.
Till you see them and you're thinking, wow, how did he even get through these things? It was pretty amazing. What an amazing accomplishment he had. My father was never one with a lot of means, but always put an emphasis on family and work to all of us. And it does work. Family is what it's all about.
It is.
I was the youngest of 5. And I think this helped, believe it or not, we think about it today and we don't know how it actually worked out, but we grew up in a 2-bedroom house, and there were 5 children, but we all slept in one room. And I think that's why, we were so close when we grew up. And in fact, it's funny. I was telling somebody about this the other day, and I can remember being in a schoolyard as a little kid, and somebody was they used the phrase "my room," and I didn't really know what that meant. I thought they meant that it was their favorite room in the house. I didn't realize people had their own room to sleep in.
Right.
But I would never change it.
Right. Made you who you are today.
Absolutely. Yeah. Very fortunate.
So as you built this successful business, career, and legacy, and family's that important, there's a balance there that's tough. How'd you stay present with your kids?
Well, I can honestly say I rarely ever missed an event. My kids were very active in sports. My daughter's in cheerleading and sports, and my sons were all athletes, and I rarely missed one. It was scheduling and just trying to be there as fast as you could. Schedule your life out. And it's interesting, even retired now, I have a schedule.
You know this from the business. When you retire, you're busier. You don't know how you got things done.
I don't know how I got things done when I was working. So, and they see that when your kids see that they are the priority, that's where that security comes in to life as well, too. As I mentioned, as a kid growing up, we didn't have a lot of means growing up, but I knew that when I left that schoolyard and I walked in through the doors of my house, that was the security.
Right.
And I always try to tell people that when they're raising their kids, listen, you don't have to go out and buy your kids all this amazing stuff so they're happy. If they know they're safe when they get in that house, that really builds strong people.
I see that's very evident. And kids today, you talk about that safe space, and we could go as deep in this as you want to. It's probably a whole separate podcast, but right. Some of the stress I see from working with teens and youth group is they go into that safe space, but with social media and how connected everyone is, when they get home, they're still connected to that.
Yeah.
They're being bullied. If they got an issue going on, they're seeing notifications on their phone.
Yeah.
It's tough for them. You're right. You go home, you can forget about the day as a kid when we grew up.
Yes.
And you didn't have all that and have to deal with it till you went back. They deal with it 24/7.
They do. I have 9 grandchildren now. My oldest being 19, my youngest being 1. So I'm seeing that, and that does worry me. My kids are really good with the devices. Mm-hmm. Like them to be a little bit better, but they definitely have their thumb on the devices as well. But it's tough. It's tough growing up right now.
It is. With Mandy being running the technology department, so social media is a no so far, and Landon was the last one of his friends to get a phone. And he kept giving us all my friends have it, and Mandy would give them the great.
Beautiful.
Are they your parent?
Think about this problem they have. When I was a kid, we all wore the same sneakers, right? It was Converse. The only choice you had was black or white, high cut or low cut, right? So now maybe somebody with not very, maybe there's not a lot of means in the household, they're on social media. And, they're seeing, the $150 shoes. They're seeing what their friends have, what their friends just bought and put online. It's a lot of pressure. A lot of pressure on parents, too, but it's definitely pressure on the kids.
And, sometimes I tell my teens to, don't ever let, quote unquote, adult or someone older tell you, oh, just wait till you get out in the real world. That's where the real pressure is. It's relative. What they are dealing with, every single thing. Yes. And that matters to them.
That's not a good idea to put that off.
Yeah.
That is not a good. I saw that. One of the benefits I also had is, as busy as we were, as you know, I spent a lot of time coaching football too. Right. I spent 14 years actually coaching football. And, I really got a lot of lessons from that, watching the kids. In fact, I remember one year, Ed coached with me.
Yes.
Before we opened up the office in Lewis. And I said to him going into it, I said, Ed, just watch. You're going to be able to pick out after a week who has the dad at home and who doesn't.
Really?
And I remember him saying to me, oh, man, you're so right. I'm seeing it. And the way you can tell is you show a little bit of emotion to one of these boys. Now, these boys were 12 to 16 years old. So, they're coming into their own at that age. If you show a little bit of care, boy, do they attach to you.
Really?
They just attach to you. They may not change themselves completely. They still have that, they want to compete with everybody else out there.
Right.
But if they know you care a little bit, it's amazing how they'll gravitate to you. And honestly, it's one of my favorite things today. My wife says to me all the time, she goes, how do you know all these people? Well, a lot of these boys that I had are grown men,
Right.
State troopers, Dover police, all kinds of successful people out there as well. And they all stay in touch. A lot of them stay in touch with me, and I love that. So it's really interesting to see these kids grow up.
That's the fruit of pouring into them when they're at that age and young and need guidance or wisdom. Yeah. Not that we're perfect or have the best advice, but right. Being present and caring.
And I bet you could say this too. I was fortunate that I played sports as a young guy. I was the youngest in the family, so I was just following my brothers and sisters, right? And, but as a young athlete, I was very fortunate to always have good coaches in every sport. Every sport. I played baseball. I played basketball as a kid. When I was older, I was a wrestler. But when I'm talking about in elementary school and football, I always had good coaches. And what I really mean by that is not the coach that had the best plays. 100%. It was the coach that was teaching you something. And honestly, I think I took a lot of that when I was coaching these boys as well, too. I very frequently took their parents aside. I can remember one young man who was a very troubled kid, and I did everything I could to help him out. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. But he was one of the best natural athletes I have ever seen. And, we had all kinds of nicknames for him. He loved it. But he couldn't stay out of trouble. He was 15, I think, at that time. And I saw his dad come to a game one time, and for the first time. And at the end of the game, I went up to his dad and I said, look, I don't know if you realize it, but this kid's an amazing athlete. And, he gave me the story, and he said, oh, yeah, I know. Never saw him again. Mm. So that's tough. If you think about yourself as a kid, imagine your dad being like that. So I agree with you. Not when you grow up, you'll realize what real stress is. These kids are going through stress.
They are. Coaches, I can think back to coaches that had a strong impact of values and lessons they taught, and not necessarily a fun lesson.
Yes.
That I
No.
And we that's a whole different discussion too. Everyone wants to win. But with my kids and their coaches, yes, I want them to win. I want them to have fun. I want them to learn. But they also have my son or daughter for a period of time. I want good mentorship there.
Absolutely.
Of what it means to be a young man, what it means to be a young lady.
Yes.
And the values of being on a team, knowing how to lose, knowing how to win graciously. Mm-hmm. And some of that, in my opinion, is lost in society.
You know what? You're right. I remember when I left the younger boys, they had a couple people take over the program, and I had some apprehensions about that. Because, they run backgrounds on coaches, and that's great. They want to make sure you're not you're lawless anyway, but it's not enough. Because think about it. Anybody that was an athlete as a young kid will tell you that, man, that coach, he had a big impact on me. I could tell you when I got to high school and played high school football, my high school football coach, and I frequently talk to his sons today. One of them was last time I heard, he was a captain on a nuclear submarine, one of his sons. Well, but this guy was Irish Catholic dude, Marine, was a veteran of the Korean War, and then he played on 2 national championship football teams at Notre Dame. And we were as strict as you couldn't cuss on the field ever. That was just a no-go. Now imagine this: 4 years of high school. We played Friday nights. Now I grew up in a town of about 20,000 people. We'd have 5,000 people at our games. It was unbelievable.
Oh, that's Pottsville.
Pottsville.
Oh my gosh. Yes. I can't believe I messed that up. I apologize for that.
Home of Yuengling beer, right?
Pottsville Waters, correct?
Pottsville Maroons.
Yes. Sorry. Go ahead.
But on Friday morning at 7:00, we were at mass. We went to church. It's a public high school.
Right.
And I can remember this incident my senior year. I had one of the sophomores come to me. I was a captain my senior year. And one of the sophomores came up to me and said, hey, I don't think I can make church tomorrow. Is that okay? And I really had to think about it. I said to him, you know what? I've been here for 4 years. I don't think that's ever happened. If I were you, I'd be there. But that's really the discipline. And honestly, I really do believe that that coach gave me because I didn't always have it as a kid. That coach gave me the discipline of being at work on time, work until it's over, doing whatever it takes. And he had some practices that were pretty crazy to try to get through. I don't think he'd qualify today to be a coach. But one more story I want to tell you about him.
Go ahead.
Okay.
This is your
his name is Bill Flynn, by the way. He's in the Eastern U.S. Hall of Fame for high school football coach. He's just an amazing guy. But he was known. Now this was before my time, thank goodness. But he was known to walk around the field at practice with a paddle. Yeah, and if you missed your assignment, now not if you didn't make a tackle or something or fumbled, but if you miss an assignment, I was supposed to block this guy, but I blocked this guy, right?
Right.
And he had grab your ankles. That's what he'd say. Now, I didn't play for him at that time because obviously they banned it after a while. But I met a guy who I was playing with his brother, and this older guy was telling me a story. And I'll tell you, till this day, it brings me to tears. I told this story, by the way. I had the privilege of speaking at an award that Coach Flint got, and they asked me to come in and speak at it, and I did. It was amazing. I got the chance to tell this story. But this gentleman said to me, I hated him so bad. I can't tell you how much. If I had a knife in my hand, I would have stabbed him. That's how much I hated this coach. He was the center. He said he hit us all the time, grabbed that face mask, almost pull our heads off. I didn't realize what he was trying to do. He said, I went to Vietnam, and he said, when I came home from Vietnam, I went to the bus station, got off at the bus station in Pottsville. I didn't even go to see my parents. I walked up to Coach Flynn's house, and I knocked on the door. And when he answered the door, I said, you're the reason I made it through.
Oh, man.
You imagine that?
This doesn't encapsulate all of that story, but how you do everything, how you do the little things is how you do everything. How you do anything is how you do everything. And the little things matter in that discipline.
Little things matter. Yeah, no question about it. So again, I like to say that I was very fortunate. I would have changed my life as a kid to have all those fancy things like the kids. We used to say the rich kids were on the west side of town, they had their mini bikes and new sneakers and all that kind of stuff. And, we envied it a little bit.
Right.
But now that I look back, I'm thinking, God, I'm so glad I didn't have that, because there were kids that were in trouble all the time. It was odd. The rich kids, the lawyers' kids, and the cops' kids. They're the ones in trouble all the time.
So let's build on that then. So come out of that, strong emphasis on hard work, discipline, holding that standard. And you have a very successful career. And now you've instilled those values into your kids and somewhat grandkids, which you are a very active part of their lives. But what are some of the traits that you see in your kids and or grandkids that make you the most proud?
My kids, it's amazing. I do watch my kids and what they used to get agitated for at me when they were younger. They're exactly like that with their kids right now. And I don't hesitate a minute to bring it up to them. I watch my oldest son. I'm very proud of him, DJ. He's raising 3 kids, and it's amazing the discipline that's there, and it's showing in his kids already. Gabrielle, my daughter, has three boys, all involved with sports, but very good students as well. That discipline's there as well too. My oldest grandson is 15, playing high school basketball, and I preach to him all the time. Any chance I get a chance to drop him off or pick him up from practice, that's what it's talking about. You don't win games in a game, you win games at practice, that type of thing.
100%.
So I am watching them carry on. My daughter, Tara, down here is in sales as well too, doing very well, selling properties for Shield Brothers. And her kids are still very young, but we all try to instill, and you know how it goes. It's all watered down as the years go by. Generations are different, but I think if you keep, like my family, when they came here, they wanted to assimilate into the American way of life, but we also kept our culture. And that's a good thing to do as
Very
well,
much
too.
so.
As long as we do assimilate into, we didn't expect people to act like us.
Right.
We wanted to act like them. But we also, around our own community, we wanted to be who we were and who we came from as well.
You spoke a lot about discipline, and I can remember our parents giving us somewhat of a hard time when Landon was young. And we're not perfect parents, but discipline was always there. And I don't mean a strong-handed discipline
No.
all the time, but there were boundaries, there were consequences to actions and things like that. And one of the biggest compliments I think we can get as a parent is if another parent or another adult says your son or your daughter is very respectful and mannerly. I'll take that over pretty much everything, how to conduct themselves and
All
how
day
to,
long.
yeah. And
All day long.
parenting's intentional. It's hard.
Very hard.
It's deliberate in what we have to do.
Yep.
How bad we want to be their best friend. And that's just not the case.
And you're right. We're not perfect. That reminds me of a story as well, too. I was in, as you know, Josh had a pretty good high school football career. He was a 2-time All-State defensive end. And, those years, everywhere I went, I was Josh's dad. I wasn't famous at all. It was all Josh. Right? I was Josh's dad. So I was in Walmart one day and I had a woman pull me aside and said, "Are you Josh Ferris's father?" So I was waiting for the proverbial, "Oh boy, he's a great football player." She said, "I want to tell you, you raised a good young man there." Or I'm not sure they were her exact words, but, and I said, "Do you have him in school?" She goes, "I don't have him in school. I'm a teacher, but one of my teachers had a problem in class with a young man who actually attacked her. And had Josh not been in that room, and he kind of cross-tackled this guy while he was going after this female teacher, by the way, too. And after talking to Josh about it, he said, "Dad, I didn't even think about it. It was just instinctive because I saw this was going to happen." So you're right. They're the kind of compliments that you want from your kids. Because guess what? Football ends. All that stops. It's what kind of person are you after that?
Yeah. I mean, I love going to watch our kids play sports, get into it. It's such a joy and it's hard emotionally.
Yeah.
I told you Landon started out first time in the goal for lacrosse last year. I've never been so nervous for that first game. I just didn't know how to handle it. He'd been in the goal 2 weeks.
Right.
Well, they didn't have a goalie on the team and the coach said someone has to step up. And he said, "I'll do it."
Oh, I love that.
And we played at Cape Middle School, which, Cape is their proverbial state champs everywhere.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh my gosh. And I remember that morning, I thought to myself, I don't know what to do. And I prayed and I said, "God, win, lose, he gets humiliated, he does well. Whatever you see fit, I'll teach off of it." That's the only way I could deal with the emotion of that. I sat glued in that chair the whole time to the buzzer. They won. Well, I popped right out of that chair. Right. I was so happy for them. But point being, I love those moments, but I love sports from what it teaches them about the teamwork, about victory, defeat, working hard, and especially, football, I think is the best example for that because if you don't do your assignment, you cost 10 other people theirs.
It's very true. Football, and I might put football as, and it was my favorite sport for sure. It was my best sport, but I want to say that wrestling,
I knew you were going there,
is a whole other story because you can't blame anybody.
Yep.
You got to make weight. I can remember, and I wouldn't suggest this because things are all different today, but I can remember going 2 days with 1 glass of water, no food, because I had to make weight. I mean, I played football at 165 pounds and I wrestled at 145. So I was 20 pounds below my weight that I had to keep. I was lean as it was.
Right.
And then go to practice the way you do, and do nothing but wrestle. And, if you watch a wrestling match, there's 3 3-minute periods. I'm sorry, 3 2-minute periods. It's not an easy thing to do to use 100% of your exertion for 6 minutes. And then win, lose, or draw, you got to come out like a good sport too.
Right.
So it's not an easy thing.
I'd say that builds the most resilience of any sport.
Yes.
Because it helps depict that you're in a good mood, motivated, feel good to go do the work.
And you know what else it does too? When you lose, it's a strange sport. I finally have one of my grandsons is wrestling now. And I explained to him, you might not understand this now, but this is an odd sport. When you're only going to get better if you lose. You go out and beat everybody. Someday you're going to lose a lot of your matches because you're not wrestling the right people. So what it also teaches you to do is to get up and do it again. So you got that big case coming in, you're working on that multi-million-dollar case, and you worked on it for 6 weeks, and finally at the end of the day, you don't get it. What are you going to do? You roll over and die, or are you just going to move on?
Yeah, exactly. Right? It's funny, with Tristan being sick for the last 2 weeks, I'm hardly ever in appointments, but I ran one of his yesterday, and Jordan was in there. She ran it. I had one part I needed to go over, but we got done, and Jordan's amazing. She interned for us for a year, worked part-time her senior year, and then came to work. She's finishing up her second year.
Wow.
Amazing. And we got done, and I said, did great, all that. She's like, well, I want to do this different. I said, if you ever say that you ran an appointment perfectly, you didn't try hard enough. There will always be something that you look back. If you're A-type and that's how your drive is, right. You're not going to settle for average in that. And there is a lot to learn when you do mess up.
Oh, well, think about how business is. It's almost identical to sports. And here's what I mean by that. You're not always going to win. So what are you going to do? Give up?
Right.
There's only 2 choices.
Right.
I was in a business, as you know, years ago, a different business. And I used to have people come and sit down and say, yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to do it. And they would, and I had the same system. I'd let them talk and I didn't say anything to them. After 15 minutes of them crying, I would say, well, you got 2 options. I could drive you up, and I swear I used to say this, I could drive you up to the bridge and you can jump, or you can continue. Which one do you want to do? Right?
Right. I'm assuming no one said drive.
So that was a little cynical, but it's a point that you're trying to drive home. What are you going to do? Roll over and die?
Yeah. And you talked about different generations and things watered down. I stress this to parents, especially in youth group all the time, or if I have the chance to speak in church. These teenagers crave responsibility and discipline. We don't give them enough in society out there. They want it. They may hem and haw but once they can gain ownership of some task, some point or lead, and they may not do it perfectly. That's the point, is to be able to teach and give real-time feedback. Yes. They thrive.
I agree.
We need to give them more, not take more away and do it for them.
I agree. Structure, discipline, that type of thing as well too. And listen, there's nothing wrong with letting them know when they did something wrong. It doesn't mean we have to hit them. My parents never put their hand on me, ever. But they didn't have to. The biggest thing for us was not to embarrass our parents. That was the biggest chore in life. Don't do anything to embarrass your parents. And that might be coming from a different culture maybe, but I think we lost a lot of that as well too. And look, there's no hiding all of this too. One of the biggest problems that we have today is the lack of dads in the house. Mm-hmm. We're not supposed to say that. It's not a very politically correct thing to talk about. I don't know why, because it's absolutely the truth. I lived it. I watched it as a football coach.
Right.
It's absolutely true.
Well, that, and even if they're there, being present and intentional.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah, it is.
It's hard. I remember Mandy would say to me, she's, taught, when she had various grades, and I would say, she would tell me about something. I say, how do you deal with that? And she would say, what I get when they walk through that door is the best those parents have to offer. And sometimes that's not a lot. And that's what I have to work with. And it just breaks your heart.
It does. It's interesting you're saying that. My daughter is a 4th grade teacher, and that's something I love watching her. She has so much compassion for it. I would make a comment sometimes that's probably not the right comment. And she would say, Dad, that's not the case. Cause look, this is a situation with this young man you don't understand. And that's true, unless you're on it every single day like that. But I frequently say to her, Gabrielle, I love your passion for your kids. Cause that's really important.
They know, she knows what they're dealing with at home.
Yeah.
And gives a lot of grace, rightfully so.
Yeah. She's in a tough school, which is in a tough neighborhood. And more than the majority of her students are, indigent at home and that type of thing as well. So, unless you're dealing with that, and listen, we're talking about the kids too. Let's also talk about the parents of those kids. It's not easy either.
No.
Anymore.
Stress and the cost of living out there. It's tough.
Cost of living is crazy out there.
I don't know how she does it. And Mandy, I joke with Mandy and say, when I retire, I'd love to go back and teach, which I guest lectured at Salisbury. They've asked me to be adjunct over there. this past semester. The timing just didn't work.
You would be great for that.
I would love to go in.
But you need younger kids down in front of you.
But Mandy told me, she said, Hal, they'd fire you by 10 o'clock because you're going to have some administrator come in and tell you this is the way we're doing it and it's not going to work. Or some kid's going to mouth off and drag them out. And I was like, yeah, you're probably right. She's like, you can't do that. I'm like, why not? Like, they need some of that.
I had a friend of mine in Dover say, man, why don't you run for mayor? And I said, you know what? They said, you'd definitely be mayor. We'd get you elected. I said, well, I might get elected, but they'd probably throw me out real quick.
God blessed us with certain abilities and talents.
Yes.
And they come with certain, I don't want to say not drawbacks or curses, but not suitable for certain professions because we tend to speak our mind.
Right. So, well, we'd speak our mind in a way that we're trying to help people.
Yeah,
fix
exactly.
people as well. And if that works, that's fine. But yeah.
Hammer always works with a nail, but Mandy reminds me sometimes that's not necessarily what you need to do. Especially in parenting. So.
Right.
All right. So family, huge. And I'll get into more of legacy later, but you mentioned, a former career and we share similar stories, in terms of starting over, both personally and professionally. And so you face adversity in that early in your career. What kept you moving forward instead of just saying, I'm done?
That's an easy answer. It's, I had children. Yeah. I had 4 kids. And, as you know, I spent 10 years, a little bit more than 10 years into a career that I moved to Dover to open up. That's how I ended up in Delaware 40 some years ago. I opened up a franchise called Rainbow Vacuum Cleaners.
I remember those.
And I remember telling my wife at the time what I was going to do, and she was waiting for the punchline. She thought it was a joke. But I watched a couple of people doing it and they were making a good living at it. And I was always one of those guys that said, hey, you know what? If they could do it, I could do it. Why not? Right?
Why not?
There's nothing original.
Right.
There's no such thing as something that's original, and we just had a knack of taking something that somebody was doing and just do it better. So I was involved in that business, a very difficult business, mainly because of, who was working for you. We had people there that, some people didn't even have high school educations that were working with us as well, too. Not that it took a lot of education, by the way, but they didn't have any discipline and it took somebody like myself. But so I blew it up to, at one point I had 5 locations in Delaware, managing about 55, 60 different, sales reps, for almost 11 years. Did a lot of business in Delaware. And then in 1990, if you remember, 91 and 92, we had a recession and we were financing these guys, through the finance companies. Well, the finance companies were getting hurt pretty bad back then. And, they didn't cut us off, but they chopped us down to about 50% of what they were giving us and couldn't survive on it.
Right.
So I went from 5 offices to 4 to 3 to 2. And then finally I had, and my marriage broke up over it, truly. That was, difficult scenario for me. So I found myself with 4 kids, one of them being 2 years old. At the time, Josh was only 2 years old and, I had to find another career. And somebody said, if you, you probably can sell insurance. You probably might do pretty well with that. So he linked me up with somebody and, the gentleman interviewed me and I didn't know any better back then. I was wondering why every one of them wanted to hire me. And I was thinking, why do they want to hire me? But I realized then I was a little bit older. I had some sales experience and a little bit of success at it. And so I ended up going to work in the insurance industry for New York Life, which was probably one of the best moves I ever made. I didn't love the insurance business, but I watched some other people in that business really making good dollars, making a good living. Very professional. I love that part of it. I got to wear a, beautiful suit every day. Probably the only suit I own, but I wore it every day. And then I got interested. I was watching this group that was involved up there, and they were doing a lot of, investment. And I thought, geez, that's kind of more my style, I think, but people would say, you can't do that right now. You got to start selling insurance. And I did. So that's what got me interested in the investment business. And then the guy that hired me got moved to, he got a job at another company as a district manager. And then he wanted to bring me over as a sales manager. So I made that move as a sales manager. And then I ended up going out and hiring some people. And that's how I hired my future business partner as a kid. I met him at a Memorial Day barbecue between his junior and senior year of college. And I just happened to tell we were talking sports, as a matter of fact.
Right.
I knew his uncle, Uncle Joe. Remember Uncle Joe?
Yes.
And I said to him, well, what are you going to do? He goes, I'm in finance. I'm going to probably, he said, I'm a finance degree. And I thought, oh, wait a minute. I'm a recruiter. So I said, call me when you graduate. And he did. And then he came in, did real well in our firm there. And, I remember saying to him one day, and it's funny, we frequently talk about this. I remember saying to him, hey, you never know. One of these days, maybe we'll hang our own shingle up. Words are powerful.
They are.
I was not in a position to be able to do that at that time, but a couple of years later, we did.
You did. That's one of the things I want to dive into with Ed and, in that dynamic, but it's amazing how God orchestrates just the randomness things that bring us. We're sitting here today because of that discussion you had with Ed about sports at a barbecue.
Amazing. Isn't that amazing? And look how many other people, were involved. Mike and the other group. And that's one of my, I want to say, one of the proudest things I could say about our company. When I sold out, we were at about 640 million, I think it was, of assets on management. And all these things we could talk about are great. We had 2 offices. We owned our own buildings, all of that stuff. But I could say the proudest thing that I had about that, 2 things. Number 1 is not a glitch with a client. We really took care of our clients. That kind of volume, you always have some kind of issues. Not an issue. Because we really, truly focused and cared about our clients. It's part of your upbringing, by the way.
Well, yes, I'm going to comment on that in a second. I'll let you.
The second thing was I watched everybody around me working for us build new homes, get themselves financially secure. That's a really good feeling.
Yeah. I model almost everything that I do here after what I learned from you guys. It trips me up.
That's an honor. Because I always admired your intellect, as you know.
It's so many of the things that I watched, understood, didn't understand, now understand on various things. We talked about family being important. I run the same model. We don't have vacation days or sick days or, hey, I need to take off to go to see my kid's game. Go.
Yep.
Right? We want the type of people in here that know that, okay, when I am absent, someone's going to pick it up for me on this team. And when they're absent, I'm going to do that. We're not hiring people that are going to say, oh, I got unlimited vacation days. I'm going to take 2 months.
Right.
That's not the type of person you want around us or servicing and working with our households and our clients. They're near and dear. The client service is without a doubt one of the biggest things.
It's everything.
It's easier to keep a client than it is to find a new one.
Absolutely.
And getting to do life with our households and our clients. And then you've seen it. All of a sudden you have their children, their parents, the aunts, the uncles on both sides, the sisters, brothers, and you have a client appreciation. You got an entire table taken up with this whole clan of families on both sides. I love that. And you experience births, weddings, unfortunately deaths, business sales, business startups, and you get to partner with that and be along for that ride. That's a privilege. It is business to get to do. It's not about, okay, we got X amount of return. Well, that's great. Anyone can do that. Not anyone, but you know what I mean?
Right.
That's not what it's about. I love doing life with that. You taught me that, you and Ed. Secondly, I come from a lineage of business owners that never had a partner. And I can remember my grandfather saying, my papa would say, you don't want a partner. My dad saying that, you don't want a partner. And I always said, why would I want to do this alone? Like, there's no joy in that for me. There's not complete joy in that. I love watching every one of these people succeed. I've always said, I want everyone that if they ever leave, something happens to me, that they can go out and get top pay at any firm in their role that they can get.
That says something about you.
I love watching that. You said build homes, get married. And it's not necessarily about the money, but it's having that family that they can be secure in financially, grow their career, be the expert and the standard at what they do in any role that they have here. I don't care what role it is. I love watching that.
How fun can it be just to have your own success and everyone around you struggling? How could that possibly be fun?
It can't be.
And truly, I have to be honest and say, I'm not sure I had that totally on my mind as we were going through the motions, putting one foot in front of the other, but it started to blossom and then we started seeing it. And then I kind of woke up to it, actually. So if I could tell you I'd probably be lying if I tell you I was totally conscious of it the whole time. But there was a point in time that I became conscious of that.
Well, I mean, if you're out a day, and I'll go back to the time that I was there or not there, you know that Mike, Ed, me, Joe could step in and run that at any time. I like the household of the client knowing when they call in, whoever they talk to is going to work the hardest to get that answer. If they don't have it, they'll find it because they care.
They're your firm's client.
Yes.
They're not Hal's client. They're at least frequent with that. And
I've done a lot of speaking and consulting recently, even at SEI. They had about 100 firms in. This is last March, and they wanted me to speak on training the next gen advisor, business succession, and things like that. And the people in this audience probably averaged 5 times my multiple out there. There were some heavy hitters there. And then you start to dive into the conversations and breakouts into what their practice is like. It was all that. It's all, I mean, that's great. You're going to make a ton, but your business really only is worth what it's worth when you're not there.
Exactly.
Not that you're not a huge part of it. And I've enjoyed this part, our edict 2 years ago, end of 24, rolling into 25. I may have told you this, it's going to sound strange, but it's to have me at 0 clients. That doesn't mean I run 0 meetings.
No, I understand.
But to empower our team to be in there, and then I can focus on key partnerships, strategies, and the business as overall. Now, do I miss being in that conference room some? Yeah, I like to get back in the weeds every once in a while. But other things, I'm pretty much in the way. I've worked myself out of the job, and that's the goal.
That's a good thing.
And that doesn't matter if that's here or in youth group, my high school young men, they lead the way. Student-led, adult facilitated is our model in that. And it's not that we're not needed, but I do get a real satisfaction and a passion to watch others succeed in this. And frankly, they do it better. I can remember training Tristan and then watching him go on an appointment like, okay, I would have done this different, but you know what? He did great. He did a little bit different. That was pretty good. I would laugh because I watched him train Jordan, and then he would come to me and say, well, I get frustrated. I'm like, it's like, hey, I went through this with you. Right? You got it. She's going to do it better. And Tristan will tell you, she's infinitely more talented than both of us put together. She's amazing. And I don't know if I ever told you her story, but number one, it's a male-dominated industry. Do you agree?
It is.
Secondly, when young people are coming out of college, they have that degree in finance, investments, or whatever, the fun stuff is the investment side. They typically just want to mess with the investments.
Right.
So we put our interns through every aspect of this business, from sitting in with clients to filing to case prep, review prep. And after the internship, we bring them in and say, what did you like? What didn't like? If you were to stay in this business, is our model something you would like? Tell us. She goes, I love it. I said, well, where do you want to be in this? She said, I want to be in front of clients in the conference room.
Wow.
That is very rare.
Confidence,
today. She loves that interaction, and she's brave in that. She's not bashful.
It shows.
And she knows that even with, I don't say lack of years, but what she doesn't know, she knows that she will get the answer, and she has a firm backing her up to get that answer. That's pretty cool to watch.
That's beautiful to watch. Yeah, I would say the best thing about this business is being in front of the clients, to be honest with you. Because that's something I miss a lot.
Yeah.
I walk through the community, I'm in Walmart, and I'm in there hugging somebody.
Right.
Because they were an ex-client. And even now, my instructions when I left the company was, anybody wants my cell phone, please give it to them. And please let me know when people pass away. My friends laugh at me. They're like, how come you always go to funerals?
Yeah.
You understand that.
I do. It's a tough one.
Unfortunately, it's the age of our clients. And I had one the other day, and the funeral had already happened. I felt so bad that they didn't tell me. My staff didn't know it either, but I called her on the phone, and you wouldn't believe how thrilled she was to hear from me. And she thought that was so nice that I would call her after her husband passed away. So, that's really what it's all about, is sitting in front of these people and developing. Listen, I have a group of friends right now, 4 couples, so 8 people who have become my top friend. They were clients. And we spend New Year's Eve together. We spend Super Bowl together. We do all these things together now. And it's kind of interesting because they were clients as old. They're a little bit younger than our normal client. But now they're a little bit older as well, too. I tell people all the time, we started this business because we wanted to work with old people because they had the money. said, problem is I just turned into one of them old people.
Well, let's dive into that since we talked a little bit about, you bringing Ed on.
Love to.
Because I'm gonna pick your brain on probably some questions, and certainly I tried to model as much as I could that I soaked in from your guys' relationship and observing that with Tristan. He was 24 or 23. He's been since 18. So yeah, he's going to turn 30. And I was roughly your age, 44 when he came on board, or 45 when he became a partner. And that's different, right? Think back to that age. Yeah. That was just 2 years ago.
Right.
For you, right?
Sure.
That, obviously Ed, incredible.
Right.
Overachiever, locked on, going to get it done. Tristan, is the same way. His work ethic and everything like that, is great, but they still don't know what they don't know yet. So how did you balance not only partnering, but having slightly different views of leadership just from an experience standpoint, and yet still mentoring Ed with that?
Yep. I truly think it was really nothing but time. The time went by, and you can't just let time go by. You got to work at it, of course. But I think one of the things I did with Ed was his biggest handicap when he was with me, we were in our own office, just one, was his age. Right. And I was very aware of it. So I did try to be the stronger person in the appointment because the client was a little bit closer to my age than he was. Ed, remember, we're 19 years difference in age.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm exactly.
Yeah. There you go. So 19 years difference in age. And then, I also want to say that as a leader, sometimes we got to let our ego not get in our way. So I saw some things in Ed after a couple of years now. Okay. Because I remember him in the Lewis office, and we were always outperforming the Lewis office, the Dover office, always, right?
Check those records.
Oh, check them out.
I was in the Lewis office, by the way. So that's why I say that. I'm just kidding.
But look what happened after a couple of years. It was a complete flip flop. And Ed really came into his own, got a little bit older, right? And he had a different expertise than I had. He was younger. He was more into the progression of the business itself, technology, more of technology, And I remember Ed showing me some stuff. He said, I want to do this, and I'm going to put this in. And I'd say, that's great. I want you to do it. But I'm not doing it. He'd say, I know. But and then even after, Ed's on Fox, right? I remember when he wanted to do the book. The book's what got him on Fox, right? And we talked about that. So he wanted to do the book together. We talked about doing it. I said, Ed, look, 6 or 7 years, I'm out of here. This is what we should do. And honestly, I looked at Ed as a son. So I was very proud of that.
Right.
I used to have clients saying, how come you're not on Fox? And I would say, well, they told me I had a face for radio. And obviously I was just trying to dance around the whole idea, but I knew where I was going. And watching him blossom and put the technology and the systems in, he had that energy that I didn't have. Right. So I think a lot of it's ego. And, there's very few, by the way, I almost go back to your grandfather and say, it would be a very special person to be my partner because they have to have equal energy. They have to have some of the same ideas, some of the same, ethics as well too.
Right.
We preached a lot about ethics.
Absolutely.
It comes from a very similar type of culture that I come from. It's very ethical to treat people the right way, especially when you have their money in your possession. Yeah. So I think just letting him go. Now, I didn't just let him go. He would always be respectful enough to me to bring things to me. And some of them truly we did do. But most of them we implemented, and I give him the credit for really blowing up the business as well as it did because it worked. And then the younger people that were in the office really, really conformed to what he had there. Right. And they enjoyed it a whole lot more than I did. It's funny, last year he said, we want to do this thing called Teams. And I knew what it was because my wife was on it. And I said, no, that's great. And I said, okay. And then I said, no, I'm not doing it. He said, yeah, that's okay.
I make fun of the technology here too. Any piece of it generally goes wrong for me.
Yeah, but you're good at it. I always admired your intellect. You know that.
Well, yeah, sometimes I got in the way. So,
Yeah, but you have that great combination of both of those things, and I really admire that.
Well, thank you, Doug.
You're a personable guy. I don't hear anybody say anything about you. My kids, gravitated to you real quickly. I mean, that should show you something as well.
Yeah.
I got a little nervous when you took my son DJ out St. Martin. That I think you were going in a casino or something. He was like 15.
Those were some serious pre-Jesus days, of which I can say that, back in some of those days, you guys gave me more chances than I deserved. I appreciate that.
I wouldn't have trusted him with anybody but you.
Immensely. And I'm blessed here that, as I often say to Tristan, and Jordan, look, at that age, I wasn't as locked on as you guys were. And
it's tough.
Yeah, that's good. But anyway.
But as far as Ed's concerned, also, I became very proud of him.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think there's a lot of partners that don't do that.
You're correct. I mean, Tristan's been running our Monday morning meeting for the last 3 years, I think, which is taking myself out of that front seat over to here and him conducting it. Everyone needs to see him as he's the leader.
It comes back to your upbringing too. I remember a funny scenario. Ed was going on vacation. I guess this was early on, a couple of years we were into it. And, he was going on vacation and he called me to tell me, he said, I told my dad I'm going on vacation. You remember Gabor, right?
Uh-huh.
Called me, said, I'm telling him I'm going on vacation. And he said to me, okay, did Dahed approve that? You have to call.
He was old school.
Uh-huh.
He was old school.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything you intentionally did during that time to prepare Ed for leadership other than just production?
Yes. I tried to take a step back because normally when people were looking at both of us, I was one with the gray hair. He didn't have the gray hair.
Yeah.
I did have hair at once.
Me too.
But yes, I let him take the lead.
Mm-hmm.
And this took time, of course,
right,
as well. But I did let him and I tried to compliment him in front of people as much as I possibly can. So it's almost like one of your children. Think about it. Catch them doing something good, right? Catch them doing something right. And if you expand on that a little bit and then show the successes of it, people see the confidence there. At our client appreciation dinners, I used to have clients come in after the dinners and, for their appointments and weeks and months later and always bring up the fact that we really love to see how you guys are so close. Obviously when Ed had his tragedy as well too, I had clients of mine that didn't even know Ed were reaching out to me to ask, how is he? Because they knew of our relationship as well too. So I was proud of what he did. Not in one bit did, and I'm sure he saw that it didn't bother me that he ended up 10 years later. He's taking the lead,
right.
And I always said to him, look, I'm going to retire at 65. We talked about that all the time. So that was the plan, and we followed through with it.
It's a built-in succession plan.
Yeah, it was easy. You have it too, though.
We have a lot of business owner clients, as you do. And can you get a bigger multiple if you were to sell your business on the open market? Yeah, probably. Mm-hmm. But when it's built in, you have that loyalty and you're not handing your clients off, but that transition is to someone they've already worked with.
Yes. It was very easy.
And that's important to me. That we just don't hand them off to somebody from, not to pick on Chicago, but Chicago.
Yeah.
Philadelphia. Yep. They're going to work together.
No, that's a thing. That also says something about you and how you, look at, and it's sad to say this, but most of the people in our industry, they're looking at their client as a paycheck. Okay. And let's face it, the clients did give us our paycheck, but I think because of the way we were raised, we really felt that closeness to our client. I had a woman say to me one time, a much older lady, she said to me, I'm so glad I'm here and thank you so much for treating me the way you do as an older person. And I don't know where it came from, but it just came out of my mouth. You know what I said to her? I said, well, ma'am, I was raised right.
It baffles me. And again, I don't want to talk about colleagues. It baffles me the lack of service I see out there.
Oh, it's unbelievable. In every industry too.
Every industry.
But can you imagine? I'm giving you my $5 million that I've worked all my life for, and then I can't find you?
Yeah. I tell these guys and gals all the time, whether it's $1 or $1 trillion, this person has worked hard for it, and they're entrusting us with that. And the decisions on how to spend, save, and invest that
to
us.
Yes.
Take that seriously.
especially if they didn't save enough. They're the ones that really need the help as well, too. And, look, people are dumb. They see that you really do care or you don't care. I mean, look at our business, the way we're in this industry, insurance industry, the investment industry. Most of those guys are not like, I'm in the office in the morning till I have my hours. Most of them are out. And obviously they're saying, well, we're out prospecting, we're playing golf, we're meeting them at the country club. I was in that, the girls in the office used to say, if we ever come here and you're not here, we're going to call the coroner first, and then we're going to go to your house. Because that's it. If you don't have appointments during the day, you still should be in that office. I'm a big believer. I'll tell you something else. I loved walking into your office. Obviously, it's a beautiful office. I love how professionally dressed your people are. I know it's old school. I love to see him with us.
It's in our policies and procedures.
Yeah.
A quote
Good for
from
you.
our football coach who passed away on the field my freshman year, Al Booth. He was one of my dad's best friends in high school and everything. But he passed away. I don't tell you that story. He always told us in practice, look sharp, play sharp.
Dress
Shirt
smart.
tucked in.
Dress
That shows
smart.
discipline. Look sharp. It's literally in our policies and procedures.
It's a uniform.
Yeah.
My wife's in the Army. She wears the Army uniform. It's a uniform. This is our uniform.
Now, that Deion Sanders has a quote on that too. It's not look sharp, play sharp, but his is look good, feel good. Feel good, play good. Play good, get paid good.
Yeah.
That was prime time.
Right,
we don't use that.
No, we're not front.
But, look sharp, play sharp. It's important. But I appreciate that compliment. One of Tristan's many strengths too, and in the ways that he's developed this office is that each department or whatever that role is, it's to function independently, to exhaust every solution before you come to someone else, and to add value in whatever it is. Because if you do that in your specialty, the whole ship rises. Because we're going to be doing that each and one of our perspectives. And everyone has done that. In that experience at our annual meeting this year, I can remember him saying, look, anytime anyone walks through that door, I want them to feel like they are our number one client, because they are. And I don't care what they have. We're greeting them. We're giving them the best treatment. I want the environment the best, whatever it is.
Yep.
Make them feel like it's a place that they want to be, because it's a place we want to be. You talk about wanting to be in the office. I love being with the team.
Sure. A company can do nothing but succeed with that philosophy, for sure. I mean, there's no question about it. And it has to be genuine.
Yes.
That's the hard part.
It is.
And the good part is, and I've always had a good gut feeling about people. I mean, there are certainly clients and there were far few between, but there were certainly clients that didn't take on for that reason. And when I would used to have people call me and ask me if we were hiring, I wouldn't take them on either. You met Chad in the office, right? You know Chad?
Yeah. So he's 2 years older. He's a year older than Ed, right?
Yes.
2 years. Maybe he was a
year.
junior, senior when I was a freshman.
Was a perfect hire for us. When I run into our clients, they'll say to me, I still call them my clients.
Right.
When I run into them, I always say, they'll always compliment Chad. They like Chad because he's a down home boy. He's very genuine. He's a good family man, by the way.
Right.
Isn't it funny how all that stuff goes together?
It does.
I don't think there's a secret behind all of that.
It
goes, yeah. I give my father was a bricklayer, a mason, actually he was a concrete worker, worked hard his whole life. I can remember as a kid, a young kid, so meaning I was probably not even in school. We had a friend of the family who was a doctor. He used to come in. I remember watching him give my dad a shot in his back and, wake up the next day and my dad's at work.
Right.
And there's no way that he wasn't going to work. So we got that work ethic, and I'm sure that's where it came from with you too.
Well, everyone here, we work hard. Again, I model it after our hours there, right? Now, if you're on the side of the clients, we have nights and weekends. I'm kind of always thinking about this. I can't get away from it. Of
course.
But not balancing. There needs to be equal effort to family, because otherwise it's not going to work. It's not going to work at all. And where I don't want to say the word lax is not the right word, but, we close at 2 on Fridays. I don't know if you guys still do.
Yep.
It's because
and now they close at 4:30 too.
Do they?
Yeah, I know. I walked in and I said to Mike, I see we're under new management here. We close it at 4:30.
You guys are too big time for me. But while we're here, we get things done. And it's kind of a work hard, play hard.
Absolutely.
By play hard, I mean, hey, you need to disconnect when you do go home.
Yep.
On that. Now, Tristan, much like us, the man does not stop thinking about work all the time. He's got a 3-month-old, had his first baby.
And that's why.
I tried to prep him for what it's like once you have this kid and stuff. And he's learning that process. I said, don't worry, that'll change when you have the second.
Yep. And somebody told me years ago, my wife was pregnant with my first daughter. They said, when you have a child, you'll make more money than you ever made in your life after you have your first child. And that's true. Because of
mindset.
It's the mindset. That's like when you stumble and you have problems. I mean, think about it. If you didn't have children, I could have easily walked away. But when you have people depending on you, and that's who you are, and that's how you were raised, you take care. We're people we're protectors. If you notice, you're the same way. We're protectors. So that's why we get along with our clients the way we do. We like to protect them as well. And I think they can read all of that as well, too. Might be a little unusual in our business that people are like that. But, I like to think, remember Don Snyder was my sister Maui, her attorney.
Yes.
He was a very, very high-end, substantial client attorney in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Had national clients. And he was just a down-home nice guy. But, and remember, I'll never forget something he said to me one time. When I first started doing business with him, he was giving me little drips and drabs. And I know he was tested.
Right.
He said to me one time, he said, the one thing you never want to do is you never want to be famous for the wrong reason. And, I've given that advice to a lot of people. And it's so true.
That is.
As well. So it's the comfort of people coming in, sitting across from you. Heck, our appointments after a while, after our reviews, and I'm sure you experienced this as well too. It was 15, 20 minutes on the account, and another 45 minutes them just telling me about their grandchildren and their kids and whatever.
They have to book out like an hour and a half, 2 hours for me when I run an appointment. Yeah, call me Lindy.
Yeah,
like I want to know.
But that's
what's going on.
And they want to talk to you too.
Yeah. I enjoy that.
Yeah.
So,
what a way to make a living, by the way.
Wow, it's a blessing.
I've said that all along. What a way to make a good living, enjoying people coming through and that's also why, and I don't know what your numbers are, but I could tell you at one point in time, 78% of our business in Dover came from referrals.
Yeah, we're referral only. So we're interviewing.
That's unbelievable.
Demographics aside, our ideal client is someone who is advice seeking and actively engaged with us.
Yep.
That is our ideal, right? They value, I always say, if I want to build a house with everything available, I just go on YouTube and figure it out. Yeah. Is that the smartest thing for me to do?
No.
But you have a lot of business owners and a lot of clients and households that are incredibly successful, intelligent, and can do this, but then it takes away from everything else. Even if they're retired, do they want to spend that entire time worrying about this?
Right.
Or engage with us? And I enjoyed that part, and I take it very seriously.
What's interesting about that too is the end result of all of that is you're getting almost the same type of people because they're recruiting the same type. There's a development up in North Dover called Noble's Pond, and it's turned into a huge 55 plus community. But I would say that 90 or 95% of the people in this community came from out of town. They're all moving from New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, New York, especially Virginia, selling their high-end homes, which really weren't high-end there, and coming and building a nice, beautiful home in Delaware and so I met a couple of clients. I did a little event up there one time, a luncheon. I got 2 or 3 clients. By the time a couple of years went by there, we probably had 24, 25 different households in that community. And I got referred to us a client who were coming in to see us. And as they walked through the door, one of the things I always said, how'd you hear about it? Who told you about us? And the husband and wife simultaneously said, everybody.
Oh, that's awesome.
See, that's a good feeling.
It is.
That's a good feeling. So, this way you don't have, and then let's get a little bit deeper into it. Now you're not sitting across from a client using all your closing techniques, that a used car salesman uses and trying to get them to be a client. You know what I mean? And pushing that. You don't have to do that.
It's waste time because once we have the interview with the client, we're interviewing them to see if we can hit their goals and objectives and they'll be a good fit for us. They're interviewing us for the same. Once that happens, they're trusting our recommendations, right? We're not spending 3 appointments convincing them why they need to do this. That bridge is done.
Right.
And we're lining up their appointments with their estate planning attorney, their CPA, or whatever it is. That relationship changes. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to get into, I don't say competition, but colleagues out there.
Yep.
There's more than one way to skin a cat. You're successful. That's great. As long as the client is being taken care of, there is no competition.
Yeah.
However, you have to take a little pride in how you do things because you feel you're doing it and you're going to do it the best way possible for the client.
Yes, exactly. And as I said, clients are educated today. They're not stupid. They see it.
They have all the information out there.
Everything's out there. Right. Exactly.
Yeah. We're not bashful about what we charge.
And let's face it, if you're dealing with the folks that we're dealing with, and I know you are, you got a 60-year-old, pretty successful person. I mean, he's not an idiot. Him and his wife know they could feel it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference.
One quick question on that before I pivot to talk about this exit. Even though you still call them your clients, I mean, you still probably talk to Ed 3 times a day. What advice would you give, I don't even want to say firm owners in our business, but any business owner on bringing in kind of that next gen succession? Either they've been hesitant because they don't know how to, they don't know what it'll look like, or they don't feel their business is worth anything. Run across that all the time. Well, it's me in the business. Okay, well, do a lot of business. It's worth something. There's equity there. Who would buy it? Is there anyone in your company that would love to take this over and has the qualities that you think it would take to run this?
My son, Josh, my youngest son, believe it or not, 10 years ago, before I retired, recommended a book for me to read. And I actually put it on audio in my car. And it's called, and I recommend you read it too. It's called Build to Sell. And it was amazing. Because as I was listening to this, I was thinking, it was almost like Stephen Covey's Incompetent Competent. We were doing everything the right way, but I just didn't know I was doing everything the right way.
Right.
And the idea is that what you're doing right now, you're in the midst of doing it. You already told me. And I'll tell you what I mean by that is that they really don't need you for the everyday process of the office right now. And that's the whole idea. If you're a sole practitioner, and you want to sell your business, it's not worth a whole lot. So I would say use your gut feeling on who you bring in. I would definitely want to know their background, whether they like that or not.
This is to every industry.
Yeah. Every industry. You have to know their background. And are they going to conform to who you are? And they don't have to be exactly like you, right?
The value system has got to be.
Value system, the ethics, the morals, all of that stuff. Is it all going to fit because it's got to be a longevity thing. And that's why I can look at Mike, who's obviously very competent in our office. I remember Mike when he used to get up and speak, he'd be beat red.
He would practice in front of me in the early days.
Oh my God.
Sometimes.
And now he gets up, no problem. And that's really, again, another refreshing thing to me to see how Mike's grown as well too. But if you're using your gut feeling, bringing the right people in and then give it time. We hired Chad 2 years before I retired. And you could see if it's a fit or not. And unfortunately, you also have to have enough guts to be able to say, look, this isn't working. You got to cut it off.
100%. And that's market research, that it didn't work. Okay, great. I'm more solid on what I do want in the future.
Yes, exactly.
And it doesn't work. You got to be able to pull that plug.
And I think the process is over time. And again, as I said, being a little bit smarter about using your gut feeling about somebody as well too, treating them right, making sure they're respecting you as well. Respect's a two-way street. How many times have you heard me say loyalty is a two-way street, right? So if you're getting a lot of loyalty from somebody, you're probably pretty loyal to them. It's as simple as that, just like a marriage.
Yeah. Well, we've always say we, because they all share it now. I always wanted to create a culture where obviously we paid very well, right? I want them to make as much as possible. But that if someone were to ever offer them more down the street, they would never want to leave the culture.
Right.
And the environment that they have.
That's a great concept.
And if they do, then I need to look at and examine myself on what did I do wrong to create where that wasn't there.
Right. That's a great example, by the way.
Right. I've had that example.
I know.
Still learning.
I know you have.
And there's been a lot of growth in that. And that, I definitely don't want to go down that route, but that one's a very tough one for me. The good thing I will say is that for that part, I want nothing but the best for them. And I know they will succeed wherever they are. I never wanted them to settle. They did. And where they are, I'm very confident that they did not settle.
It's another way to look at it as well, too. But also look at yourself and the resilience you had during all of that as well, too.
It's tough.
Because it was a shakeup, right? And what? You didn't go to the bridge, right?
No. No.
So,
yeah, gosh, we're just going to podcast on that, but I think that would be a therapy session.
Yeah.
Advice. So that's one thing I appreciate that, you came to me and offered that advice. Things I wanted to hear and things I did not want to hear, but needed to hear at that time.
Yeah.
And
anytime one person dictates our business, we're doing the wrong thing. We're doing something wrong there.
Yeah.
It has to be a team, especially in our business as well, too.
Yeah.
But I see how you're running just from walking in, the fact that you have people in place, you have somebody, there's all kinds of, I know a guy in Dover that runs a pretty successful business, but every time I walk in the door, there's nobody up front. He's saving money because you didn't hire a receptionist. And I had a conversation with him one time and said, look, tell me how much you think it would cost you to put a receptionist in. And he told me, and I said, how many more, I don't want to say what he does for a living, but I said, how many more of those you think it would take to pay that? Not that much more. Why? He didn't even know what I was getting to. It's a professional thing. Number one is you're hiring somebody, which is a good thing, by the way. All right. Let's remember else what we do. We not only provide great incomes for people around us, but we also provide a very heavy tax base.
If they would cut those, I could hire 4 more people.
Because look at the taxes that we generate.
Tell me that, Mr. Future Mayor.
Yeah, that'll never happen. But that's it. And I do, and I belong to a networking group. You probably remembered that. I still belong to the group. Yeah, everybody's saying, you still belong to that networking group. Well, I think it's 15 years now. And I enjoy it because I've mentored, insurance people. I've mentored a couple of different realtors, which I had a young girl now. She got her license at 17 years old when she came out of high school. She's 22 right now and she's crushing it.
Oh, that's awesome.
You know how rewarding that is to me?
That's awesome.
It's unbelievable. Yeah, it really is.
Well, I want to transition then as we wrap up here into now we're out. So preparing for that, when did you seriously think about it's time to exit, but not just exit well? I don't mean financially. Mm-hmm. Well, yes, financially is part of that.
Part of it, yeah.
But with dealing with so many clients to retire, it's more than it's about more than the numbers.
Yeah.
You poured your heart in for 40 some years into career, business. Mm-hmm. That's what I do when I get up.
I felt like I was married to Key Advisors because I think if you're going to be successful in a business, you better marry it. Good example of that is, you remember my restaurant, the Sports Zone.
I do.
10 years and 2 months I had the place. Turned it into a mess, whoever took it over. And it hurts me. Till this day, it hurts me. It bothers me because you marry this stuff.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's part of your legacy. Well, if that legacy is no longer. So the way honestly, it's probably something that everybody plans on, but even after you plan on it, you still don't know what you're in for as well. So,
how so?
Well, oddly enough, I get up at the same time every day as I ever did, 6:15. Boom, I'm up at 6:15. Now the difference is I'm not, scrounging to get out, get myself dressed and get to work before anybody else gets there because I always wanted to get to work first. I've always had that no matter what business I was in. Even when I worked for others, I lived in Dover. My office is in Wilmington. I used to open the doors every day.
Right.
I did that intentionally, because I think you lead by example, right? Just like sports again. But when I finally did retire, I felt a little bit bored in the beginning, and I knew I would be. I can remember the first week I was home. I remember calling Ed and saying, it's 2:00 and I'm in my house. I don't think I've ever been in my house at 2:00 in the afternoon during the week.
Right.
So these are all new things to you. And the worst thing you could do is when you retire is turn the TV on. You want to know why people are crazy?
I watched
daytime TV is like unbelievable. So that didn't last very long. So I basically deluged myself into my family and my kids and the grandchildren and being at their beck and call and doing things for them. But as you know, I couldn't stop. So I was buying a property here and there when I was working still. So I decided that was going to be my business. I started a company called Zill Properties. So I bought 4 houses last year and, sold them. So that's really what I started doing. But it took me a good year to realize, I got to do something here every day. Right. I go to the gym every day, 7:30. My friends always say, boy, if you want to be, somebody wants to kill you, they know where they're going to get you every day. So I'm walking in that gym every day by 7:45. I'm finished by 9.
Right.
And I'm doing that. And my kids are saying, why are you going so early all the time? Well, because the day's over and now I got the whole day to myself.
Oh, I can't work out at night and train at night. It has to be first thing. It sets the tone.
Yeah. I didn't do that. And when I worked, I used to go after work because I couldn't train that early.
Yeah.
But so, the transition, the money, your assets, it's just like every client we've ever had. Nobody thinks you have enough money when you retire. And 99% of them do, right? I didn't think I had anything to worry about financially, so that wasn't the issue. And I had clients in my office saying, well, why are you retiring? Well, they didn't realize I was 65. When I retired, I'm 69 now.
Get out. Are you?
Yeah, 4 years, buddy. I turned 69 January.
I still see you in your 40s. I'm not saying that to flatter you. I'm just you haven't changed much there, Doug, in that time.
I tell you. I forget a little bit, but I'm okay.
Get that picture from the Bahamas in 2000.
Oh my God. You remember that?
Bermuda. That was it.
Bermuda. Yeah, that was a beautiful time. So what I really do is I try to dedicate myself to doing some good things. I told you a little bit when I came in earlier about a project I worked on. I'm not doing that now, but because I'm not doing that now, I just got asked to be on a committee for basically they're pulling homeless people off the street to try to put them in something. I feel like I need to do that. I really do.
I know you've mentioned to me a few times the next mission trip that comes up, especially that camp. Please let me know. So there's a lot of opportunities. It's good to hear on the homeless. Where I live has an issue. It's a hot topic politically because I don't know. It seems that adults can't be adults, that if you have an idea that it doesn't work, you don't back down from it. Mm-hmm. You don't transition to find a solution. There's no easy solution to that. Yeah. No, it's not throwing money nonstop to it.
I agree.
I have a very good friend who's a Christian counselor, and he works exclusively now with homeless. And he tells me, he said, how majority don't want to change. They want to stay in that lifestyle. So how do you get past that? He's like, that's what you have to work at.
Very true.
And I've witnessed that in working with homeless. Mm-hmm. And it breaks your heart because I always say, all right, let's say they made a bad decision. They didn't make a bad decision. They got dealt a bad hand. I've always had, and one of them is sitting right here with me, that's you, that if I'm making a bad decision, they're grabbing me and saying, guess what? We're not going to make that decision anymore. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Not everybody has that.
No.
And so regardless of how they got there, I still God's son, God's daughter. And we've been blessed, not only financially, but to be a steward of our finances, of our talents, our abilities, and our time, to use that wisely to serve. So it's awesome to hear that.
The parents we had as well.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's the parents there to do that.
Because when people are looking at those people on the street, it's funny you say that because I say that all the time. I always say, look, that's somebody's daughter and somebody's son. Mm-hmm. And yeah, they probably made some bad decisions. We all know that. Well, and the other side of that is, let's face it, about 90% of them are on some type of drugs or alcohol. But we would be too if we were on the street. That's how you get through. I mean, I've had them tell me, this is how I get through, man. What do you think? I'm sleeping in 40-degree weather. I get through by shooting myself up. So there's no good answer to that. And I agree. There's not one answer to that. But it's also the reason that, so I'll go down this road here. Unfortunately, the politicians are making all these decisions.
Yeah, tell me.
It's the reason it doesn't work. It's because how many politicians are really good business people? That's the problem, because it is a business, and I'm definitely going to stay away from the politics of this, but look the way our country's turning around right now, because we have a business person that people don't like those decisions, but the business person is making those choices to make things better for everybody. And they're not easy to do. And sometimes you don't like that person for making those choices, but that's the whole idea.
I always say when people start into politics, I say, look, okay, let's take the federal level. And most people now have a homeowners association. They live in development. I said, go to a meeting. I've been to my meeting. We have it once a year. Our dues are enough to do snow removal.
Mm-hmm.
There's still people arguing.
Mm-hmm.
There's still people debating. And if we can't run a $140 a year homeowners association meeting without that, how in the heck do we going to have that multiplied up to the federal level, let alone state?
Yeah, no doubt.
Mankind is inherently flawed. And when we get together on that, it just happens if you're not grounded
in reality.
And, for me, God is the world's compass is relative, right? It'll change based on what it wants and considers truth.
Isn't that the truth? Wow.
God's truth is not. It's absolute.
Yes.
That compass is always pointing. It's not a popular topic in politics, separation of church and state, or however they want to throw it. That's the
but think about
original intention there. But you're right. And it goes back. I see it. And when politics and that money gets involved, right? Like I look at politics as hey, that vote's money. And we had a project in Georgetown that I was a part of in helping in the construction of it to alleviate. It was the pallet housing, the pallet buildings, like essentially 8x8 or whatever. So they wouldn't have to live in a tent and have a secure place to go while they got a job. Because if you want to place someone in a home, you don't settle on real estate within 24 hours, right? So it's temporary. And then we found out that, a couple years passed. This is not the exact number. I'm going to give a paraphrase here, so if I'm wrong, but the EMS and police calls in our town were double or triple the surrounding towns combined. And it was from there, and it wasn't working. Okay, well, guess what? That didn't work. Let's pivot. I was a huge advocate of that. Yeah. I was on the ground helping build.
Right.
Well, guess what? It's not working. All right, what's next? Let's try something different. Oh, no. We got to dig our heels in to say we got to throw more money at it. Oh. But then on the other side, too, that was against it. Like, hey, let's try something new. There's no perfect solution. Let's try something. And that's, you sub in anything on that. But listen, there's people out there, and I get the position, right? I run a lot. And running in town now, I see it. And there is mental illness in that homeless community.
Oh, without question.
So you take someone in a yard with their kids in a yard. There's needles out there on the other side of that fence. That has to be addressed. That does not mean we can't address the humanity in what we want to do.
Right.
Because we want to move that somewhere where they can be served or clean that up doesn't mean people hate homeless.
Right.
The same way that people that want to work with the homeless doesn't care about the needle on the ground with the kid. Why we can't see that, I always go back to why can't we be adults and get that problem solved? But anyway, that's a whole nother podcast, Doug. Mm-hmm. I'm glad to hear you doing that. So transitioning well, you're finding purpose.
I am finding purpose. I feel good about that. I like for my grandchildren to know what I'm doing with things like that as well too. And honestly, I also do things on my own. And I don't do it. And I tell people this all the time. Look, you shouldn't contribute to charity or do charitable things so you can get your picture in the paper with the check. Okay. I do things that people don't even know what I do. And I love it. One of my favorite things that I've ever done, my wife and I, who's an angel, by the way, once a month, and I'm thinking that because we're due, we go to Walmart and we walk around Walmart, do some shopping, and we try to go at the beginning of the month when we know welfare checks are coming out or the cards are coming out, and we pick somebody out. And we watch them the whole time we're shopping. We're watching what they're shopping, usually an older person, older couple, or somebody young with kids. And we follow them to the checkout, and we don't say a word. I asked, now the last person was Spanish. I didn't realize she was Spanish. She didn't speak English. And as you know, my wife speaks Spanish, so I said, honey, you go do it. So she went up to the lady, and so to show them a little dignity, what we do is we say, we want to do a little bit of a survey. If you don't mind, we'll help you with your groceries. So, and the survey said, what the survey is? Have you noticed that your electric bill is going up? Have you noticed that gas prices are going up or going down? They're the two survey questions. And they said, okay. And she has my credit card in her hand. She goes, zip, zip, and we walk out the door.
Oh, that's awesome.
That is the most gratifying thing you'll ever see. When you're buying somebody food, that's not to get your picture in the paper. That's to be able to say, God, I go back to my, I almost feel guilty having the home I have. You know, you walk into my house now and I think, okay, well, you know, I deserve this house now. Because sometimes you don't think you deserve it. You know, I wish my folks were still here. You know, I could do whatever I want with.
Right.
Those things I do miss. So I think that's really important to be able to do that. It keeps your mind sharp, makes you feel better. Maybe it's my guilt. I don't know.
Never is my cup fuller than when I'm pouring it out for others.
Love it. How?
All the time. When you're tired, exhausted, I will come back.
But not everybody's like that.
Maybe they're not in the right environment.
Yeah.
I come back more rested, alive, and filled from a missions trip, whether overseas or domestically, than I do a vacation. Now, of course, I got to factor my young kids in there, in vacation now, but every time.
Yeah.
And that could be zero sleep in whatever environment.
Well, you realize that not everybody's like that.
I know I wasn't like that.
It's the one. Yeah. I've always known you being very caring. That's for sure. I think you had the basic upbringing, the right upbringing as well. I mean, I know
that was modeled,
your mom,
certainly for that, I guess.
And we're lucky that way, if you think about it. You know, I remember coaching, and Josh, while I was coaching, Josh was on my team back then, and we had a kid on our team that was really rough. And, you know, Josh, I'm going to beat it. And I said, Josh, do you think that kid's dad's like hugging him and saying goodnight, giving him a kiss before he goes to bed? He can't even find his father. And you got to put this stuff in people's heads that they have to understand that. And, you know, that's the whole downside. We could talk about this forever, by the way, and I hope this isn't off your subject, but it's the whole downside of society.
I see it in the camp in Bahamas that we served. And I think I've told you stories before. You can't even pat someone on the shoulder, a male there, because either they've been abused, if you say good job, or it's a cultural thing that, like, that's not happening.
You mean touching?
Touch, like, hey, good job. Like, you know, say, pat them on the shoulder, nothing. And they have to be so hard because of what they have to do on the street there. But then you get them away at this camp in the most beautiful environment on this little key for a few days, and you see how much joy they have. And they literally don't even have like 1/100th of what the average person has here. Yeah. Take away family for any of that. And some of the guys I work with that are from down here or down there, it's the number one thing they said. There's a lack of good, if there's not a father and they're there, just say they're there. It's a lack of good fathers there being intentional with how they're parenting. It's huge. And that's not a slight on a mom raising a child.
No.
God made us different with different strengths and abilities, and both are needed. And especially for a young boy and young man, having a positive male role model in there I see it in the youth group all the time.
It's a bad thing today. You're not allowed to say things like that. It becomes a racial issue. And look, it's in both races, a lot of races, by the way. The race doesn't matter. And if you don't have a father in your life, and you know, maybe it doesn't even have to be the best father, by the way. You know what I mean? Just a father in your life. But a lot of kids are empty because then they think I'm not worthy because he didn't even want me. You imagine that feeling.
Yeah. And different things are modeled from the mom and the dad. Some of Mandy's strengths, gosh, I don't possess in the least. Yeah. But then there's other stuff that, you know, as a dad, I'm going to model on grit, on toughness, on resilience, things like that.
Right. You know, a great concept. And I've spoken a lot about this to people, especially young kids that have problems. And, you know, it's okay to have a little, I figured this out about myself and I never realized it, but when I was very young, I definitely had a chip on my shoulder for sure. And I'll tell you why. You know, when I was a young kid, culturally, people were very ignorant. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They didn't understand cultures. And you were either black or white. So what am I? Who is this kid?
Right.
That kind of bothered me a lot as a kid. And you know how many times people would say to me, what are you? Like, not in a good way. I can remember my freshman year of high school in the cafeteria, first couple of weeks of school, this kid came up to me in front of everybody and said, man, what are you? Are you black or white? You know, they didn't know what a Lebanese guy was.
Right.
So at least you were black or at least you were white.
Right.
I didn't know what the hell I was. I knew what I was, but I mean, people didn't know. And I know I had a chip on my shoulder from that. So as I used to explain to some of my young football players, listen, you could take that chip that you have on your shoulder and you could really make it work for you. Or you could say that's your excuse for not having a nice car, I'm not having a good job. That's your excuse. And that's exactly what people do. I took that chip on my shoulder, and I think I still do it till today. It's probably not a good thing, but I still think I'm showing why I'm worthy of all this. I'm trying to show why I'm worthy of all this.
It can be a driver, certainly. Now, not from that aspect of what you experienced there, but I've always had that chip, and I've had to work my way out of it. I've always wanted a seat at the table, just to flip that table over, right? I'm going to tell you I belong at this level, but I'm going to flip that thing over. And that will get you far. But the lessons life have taught me, mostly self-imposed actions, is that you're right. That's not always sometimes a good thing. As my wife always says, how it's not necessarily a balance of truth and grace. It's 100% of both in that. And boy, she's like, you love to give truth.
Wow.
Why don't you give some grace here? That's hard. It's hard to give myself grace. But as I've learned to do that, it's enabled me to grow in some areas that I did not want to address, right? We're A-types. So if something doesn't work, all right, pivot, let's go. It's great in business and things. But as a human and as a person, as a dad, as a spouse, as a leader, it's given me the opportunity to look back and examine, okay, what role did you play in this? And I don't care how big or how little it is. What role did you play so that does not happen again? Because however you were trying to communicate that wasn't received by that other person or whatever that situation was.
That's maturity.
Regardless of how much you care. It's tough.
Yeah. I'll tell you one thing you and I finally did right.
What's that? I'm going to tell my wife.
We married right. I married an angel. I don't think I don't know why I deserve her. And I probably could say that about you.
Bashful. Oh, Amanda Faye, is she?
No, but they put us on the right. I tell people all the time, before I met my Rosie, I used to say, I used to think I was a good person till I met Rosie. She's an unbelievable person. I mean, to the point that, can this person be real? She's an angel. I tell her all the time, she's like an angel. Everyone loves her. No matter where she goes, people love her. They can barely understand her because she speaks, she's Spanish, but she speaks English, of course.
Yeah, Mandy's very good. She'll say, do you want me to listen to this rant? Do you want advice on how I think you should fix it?
Oh, my God.
Or do you want to know your part in it?
Oh, my God. That's amazing.
Knowing your part in it, that's not fun.
Yeah, no, it's not fun. It's kind of reconciling with yourself as well, too. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I like to say that. I probably can say that I like to think I'm pretty good at that now that I think about it, that if I did something was wrong, I'll beat myself up for a while. I'll talk to myself and tell me I'm an idiot or whatever. Sorry. But
we'll bleep it, don't worry.
Yeah. But, I that was stupid. What'd you do that for?
Yeah. That's tough because we're extreme, right? Because then we could take that to the whole level of everything. It's hard to give yourself grace.
Right. It is.
It's so hard.
Well, and I'll tell you one new movement. We're talking about all the negatives. I'm loving to hear, and I hope it's true. It sounds like it is, that there's a lot more young people moving to religion. And I don't care what religion it is, but a religion. And I think you could probably all agree that that's one of the biggest problems that we have today. The country was built on. I read a tremendous book, by the way. Somebody recommended for me. It's a book about William Penn. It's called. I'll think about it in a second. See, I still forget things.
I got a book for you.
But William Penn's book was all basically the Constitution. Now he came here in the 1600s, the late 1600s, right, early 1700s. The Constitution was written all about the what was his religion? Quakers. It was all written all about that. That's what everything was involved with. Not just the separation they wanted the separation of church and religion, but it was all built on the
that was done so that state couldn't interfere with religion.
Yes. Not the other way around. Yeah.
Listen, the young men and ladies, mainly with the high schoolers, how brave, courageous they are about their faith.
Yeah.
In school.
Yeah. It's not cool.
We're in a lesson right now talking about, I'm going to mess the names up, but Abshak, Meshach, Abednego, when they got put into the boiler essentially of the flames because they wouldn't do the custom that Nebuchadnezzar wanted. They said, fine, do that, but I'm not doing that. You can put us in there. God will take care of us. And if he doesn't, then I'll be with him. They went in there and they came back out. And to listen in our small group to the things they deal with and then how they processed it and dealt with it and stayed bold. And then the times they didn't, they said, I came out of that. I knew I should have said this about my faith. I didn't. I kept quiet because I was embarrassed. The next time that happened, 2 days later, I did it. And that goes back to that. Failure is a good thing.
Yes.
In that. So yeah, I'm finally maturing in that. Hopefully it's not too late. I still got a long way to go and, I still make a lot of mistakes, but.
Well, of course you will. So do I, and all of us. Well, I guess they said there was more Bibles sold last year than in many, many decades. And I hope that's what we're seeing right now. And I don't want to be over religious about this, but I'll tell you what, it can't hurt.
People are craving truth.
Yeah.
It's hard to find truth in this world because it's ever changing.
Yeah.
And they're starting to see through that.
Yeah,
for sure.
No question about it. Look at, there's certain cultures that were very religious back in the early turn of the century, even into the 30s and 40s. And this same culture has moved away from that. And this culture has gone downhill in a bad way. So there's proofs in the pudding, isn't it?
We're going to have to get part 2 on this one. We're going to focus on your service work. We'll focus on how we grow.
I'm in. By the way, I wanted to ask you, have you read J.D. Vance's book?
No, I haven't. Is it good?
Please read it. I know everybody saw the movie, and that's great, but you have to read the book. I really clinged to that book. It really gravitated me to another place because it kind of reminded me of where I came from. Pottsville.
He's got an incredible story.
I didn't live in the poverty that he lived in. I mean, we certainly didn't have much, but I didn't live I didn't live in that addiction problem that his mother had and all of that. But the way the community all went downhill because of a particular industry, meaning the steel industry, went away. And, Pennsylvania, the coal industry went away. And people became, and then he really explained why. Why do I buy, 2 packs of cigarettes, smoke 2 packs of cigarettes a day? Why am I living off of Mountain Dew and popcorn and all? It's a great explanation.
Put it on my list. Part of my everyday devotional and journal.
Oh, it's a great.
I'm a box checker. That's how I get things done, right? Check box.
Check that.
But I have 9 things that I journal every day.
Read his book. And I value him quite a bit. It's not a political point to me.
Check it out.
It's a guy that I think can really, and look where he ended up. I mean, the guy, he felt himself, I related to this, and I'm really exposing myself now, but I'll do it anyway.
This is an open arena here,
but he said he's at Yale. Everyone at the table, everyone in Yale is there because their father was at Yale or their grandfather was, not him, right? When you go to Yale and you're graduating, you don't go interview. You don't put a resume out there. They come to you. And, he felt like he used the word, am I an intellectual fraud? He couldn't believe that he was where he was. I used to feel that way about myself.
The imposter syndrome. Very common in leaders. They don't feel they're good enough.
Yeah.
Because they want to be prepared.
Yeah.
And frankly, that's the drive. I forget who's the radio personality that said that. Like, people say, okay, I practiced enough or I prepared enough. Winners feel, did I prepare enough?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I did, right? Because they're constantly.
Yeah, that's very true. But it really woke me up, and I think a lot of people should read that. That book can inspire people to say, this is why certain communities of people and that do. And when I say communities, I mean the community he grew up in was predominantly a white community, but they were very poor, and they all did the same thing. They all spent the money on the used Cadillacs that they couldn't afford. Right? Why do people do that?
Community's huge on who you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
I'll put on my list because one of those boxes I check, I got to read a chapter a day.
He's a miracle to me. The way he turned out today, it's a miracle. I don't know how anybody thinks they grew up rough.
Check it out.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, anything else you want to add? We talked about your legacy. We talked about the partnership with Ed, coaching, service, everything that I want to talk about today. I could still go on and tell you to the blooming face how appreciative I am for you and for Ed and Mike and everybody in that environment there. I mean that.
Well, I appreciate you saying
Miss Ed.
I'm the lucky one. I had all you young guys around me, very smart people. You know, I admire intellect a lot. You know, I was never a great student. You know what I mean? There were certain things I was very good at. And that's why I try to tell people, hey, listen, you don't have to be great at everything. Just be really good at one thing.
Right.
And you'll be fine. But I appreciate intellect. That's why I'm very I was tough on my kids and I'm tough on my grandchildren about grades. I don't believe that makes a person, but I think it gives you a little bit more confidence in life. I had to gain my confidence. I had to figure out what that chip on my shoulder was. Why did I have that chip on my shoulder? I was like everybody else. I was a decent athlete. But I was never satisfied with myself as well, too. I had a wonderful family supporting me. And, I'll tell you, I've been a very, very lucky guy. I see it now. I didn't really see it before. I was fortunate to have the family I have. I'm fortunate to have the wife I have, fortunate to have the kids I have. And I was fortunate enough to have you all around me. You know, it was great.
That's awesome. Well, I hope today and, Lexi will get this queued up and processed and all this. Something you can show your wife, kids, your grandkids to learn. They know everything about you, but maybe they'll pick up something, to appreciate even more who you are as a person, as a friend, as a father, as a spouse, and certainly as a mentor.
Well,
I appreciate it.
The mentees become the mentors, as you are.
Oof. I don't know. But yeah, I appreciate that. And for those of you that are listening out there in the audience, I really hope you picked up some more insight into how we do things, why we do things the way that we do, and what's important to us, because you share many of the same values that we share. And that's why you're with us as clients and we do life together and things like that. And certainly on the business side, we could talk another 2 hours on business tips and suggestions and advice, what works, what doesn't work. But we'll save that for another time.
You're doing it the right way. You're doing it the right way, buddy. Keep it up.
Appreciate you coming down. Love you, Doug.
Yep.
Appreciate you greatly.
God bless.
So that's all for the Clarity Corner. We look forward to seeing you next time.